If you have been wondering how you can spot mistakes in Xero, then this video is for you. Because I am going to be showing you 5 ways that you can discover whether your Xero has hidden mistakes. Hi, my name is Ray Armand and I am a chartered accountant. I am based in the UK and I run an accounting practice helping multiple businesses across the UK with my team to look after all their bookkeeping and finance. I have over 12 years experience in using Xero and I want to share with you some of that knowledge to help you get more out of using Xero. So let's jump into it. Let me show you how you can actually spot whether there's issues in your Xero. So on the screen here, I have the demo company that you can access in Xero. So as soon as you have a Xero license, if you click on your drop-down menu here, you can then access the demo company. If you have any issues doing that, you can always go to my Xero, and I will link to a video where I run you through how to access the demo company or reset the demo company if that's something you need to do to be able to follow along. So I'm on the demo company and let me show you how you would spot mistakes. And these are just 5 of the ways, but I would say they are 5 of the most common ways. So number 1 is number 1 and 2 actually, we are going to be looking at the bank account because that's where most of the action happens in Xero, and that is where I see the most commonly occurring mistakes. So what we're going to do is from the dashboard here, which is the first page you land on, we're going to jump into Xero, and we are going to, typically you will land straight on this reconcile page, and this is probably where you spend most of your time. So this is where you can push the OKs and where the little green reconcile options will come up. Now, what tends to happen is people spend all their time here and they kind of ignore that these other tabs exist. Now, I'm not going to spend ages explaining what each of these are because I've spoken about them in other videos. My focus is on helping you get some quick wins here to find out how do I know if I've made mistakes. So what I want you to do is jump to this account transactions tab. And what this basically is it's a list of all the transactions that have been recorded in Xero for that bank account. And what we don't want to see here is we don't want to see any unreconciled transactions, especially those that are older than a couple of weeks. So when you come to the screen, you'll see here I've already clicked. It will tend to default to being sorted by the date, but you want to come here and click the status column. And you might have to click it once or twice, depending on how you last sorted it, because you want to make sure, because this is ordering it from reconciled to unreconciled, whereas if you click here, it's then ordering it from unreconciled to reconciled. So you want to group together all the unreconciled transactions. Now, if you have pages of unreconciled, then that's a big problem and you need to do a big cleanup. Ideally, you only want to see a handful, as you see in this scenario. Now, what you are looking out for is you're looking out for transactions that are older than a couple of weeks. Now, as I record this video, it is March 2025. So all these sort of March transactions, I'm not too worried about, but the September 2024 transaction is a concern. You have, or someone in the system, Xero, has marked a bill or an invoice as paid. They've created a payment to this bank, but it has never been reconciled or matched up to an item in the bank statement. So you've said something has been paid or received in the bank when it never has actually taken place in the bank, or the other possibility, it has been reconciled to a different transaction. So that's something that you'll need to work up and clear up. Now, this video isn't showing you how to fix these issues. I'm just trying to bring to your attention how you can discover whether your Xero has mistakes. So if you have unreconciled transactions in this account transactions tab that are more than a couple of weeks old, that is a sign that something is wrong and needs to be fixed. So that's point number 1. Let's go look at point number 2. We're going to stay on the theme of banks, and this time we are going to go to the bank statement. Now, what you should hopefully have in place is an automatic bank feed where your transactions are pulling through live every 24 hours directly from your bank. Alternatively, you may be uploading manual bank statements, but I do recommend the automated route. And I do have a separate video which I will link to here, which runs you through how to connect up your bank feed if you haven't done that before. Now, regardless of whether you have a live bank feed or you are pulling in the transactions manually, this problem could exist in either scenario. Now, what people assume, whether they're doing it manually themselves or whether they have a live bank feed, is they assume, especially with a live bank feed, that information is pulling through correctly and they are dandy and they just crack on for years, months, if not years, without checking this. But what happens, and it happens often, and I mean, we look after, in my practice, we look after hundreds of clients, and I've seen so many Xeros, and it happens in all Xeros. And so we've actually implemented this check that I'm going to show you now as a check that we do at least quarterly, if not more regularly. And that is to check your actual bank statement that you get from your bank against the balance that is showing on the screen. Because what happens so often, more often than you would think, is that bank feed glitches. And when it glitches, it either pulls through duplicate transactions, so two of the same transaction, or it just skips transactions. And this will then result in errors and incorrect information in your Xero. So we obviously want to avoid that. Now, what you need to do is go to your bank, and either, you'll log into your banking and you can check your most recent bank statement. But I would actually recommend downloading the most recent bank statement you have available, because you're probably going to have to be trawling through lots of transactions. And you can start with the most recent date. So you can see here this. It is a demo company, so the most recent transactions that have been pulled in are up to the 16th of March. So you're then going to go to your bank statement and see, okay, we always work off the last date here. And so not the last date, the last transaction on any specific date. So you go to the last transaction on the 16th of March, you look at the bank balance, and you compare that to the bank balance after the last transaction on that same date in your bank statement. If they do not disagree, you can go back one additional day, and you go back to the 15th of March. You look for the last transaction on that date, look at the bank balance, and you do the same on your bank statement. Now, if there's an issue, you don't want to be doing this on a day-by-day basis. If you realize there's an issue, what I tend to do is I'll jump back a whole month. So I'll be like, oh wow, my balance is way off. Let me pop back to the 25th of Feb. Okay, there's only one transaction on that date. The balance should have been that. I compare it to my bank statement. If it still doesn't agree, I'll go back another month or two until you find a date that those two agree. Once you find a date that those two agree, that indicates that there could be multiple mistakes after that date. So you will then go, okay, then you have to go line by line, day by day, and look for those missing transactions. Once you've found the errors, either the duplications or the missing transactions, you correct those, and then you work forward. You go, okay, I fixed something that went wrong. Let's say I got it to agree up to this date. So I fixed something that went wrong here on the 7th of March. I go back to the 16th of March and it still doesn't agree. So it means there's another error. So you have to go back to where you were on the 7th of March, where you found that error, and then go a bit slower. And you basically have to work methodically through the documents until you flesh out all the duplications and missed transactions. So that's why this is something that I do recommend you do quarterly, but hopefully just as a kind of like a taster or a teaser for you, I'm giving you a way for you to check, does your Xero possibly have errors? So that was number 2. My third way that I recommend you check whether your Xero could possibly have errors is, now this one is specific to anyone who's using tracking categories in Xero. You should, at least monthly, come to your accounting menu here, go to reports, and you want to run your profit and loss. Now, if you have that report starred, like as your favorites, you will see it here. Otherwise, if you come to reports, you can scroll down, and under the financial statements section, you will see the profit and loss. Do make sure you star it in future for easy access. You'll open that up, okay? And this is going to be for you to check that you have made sure to assign everything to your tracking categories. Now, I don't know if Oh, they do. So in this demo company, they are using tracking categories, and they're using east side, north, south, west coast, and unassigned. So what you want to do, this is your third check to see whether your Xero has any errors, is you want to run your profit and loss, and when you come to this tracking categories filter, now this filter will only be visible if you have tracking categories set up. You will come here, you will click unassigned, and you basically want to view for any unassigned transactions. So you hit apply and you'll update. Now it will show you all those transactions that you have not assigned. Now if you are running your tracking categories in such a way that you're trying to see the profitability of different areas of your business, you will want to make sure that every single transaction gets assigned to a tracking category. And if it doesn't have a specific area of your business or specific project, I always recommend having a head office cost that you put all your other income or expenses to, okay? Or like a head office category. And this will allow you to do this check, because if you don't have a head office category, you can't see whether you have mistakenly forgotten to assign a cost or maybe an income to one of the other tracking categories. So that one's very niche to anyone using tracking categories. So let's jump into number 4 and 5, because they are not so niche and they are relevant to everyone else. The next one is a quick one to check, and but yet it's so important, and that is, again, to come to the accounting menu, and this time we want to go all the way, I was going to say all the way to the bottom, to advanced, but in case you haven't started, you want to come to this advanced menu here. So we're going to hit advanced, and then you want to go to your financial settings. And what you are looking for here is these lock dates. Now, your first sign that there's an issue is if your lock dates are both blank. So that's what I will often see. There's no lock date in place. Or if your lock date is dated before the end of your last financial year. Okay, so let me explain that. If, like in this case of this demo company, their year end is the 31st of March. So we're sitting in March 25. That means their last or their most recent complete year end was the 31st of March 2024. That means that we want to at least see that the Xero is locked up to the 31st of March 2024. We can just put those both the same for your sake, okay? That means, and even better, if you're doing VAT returns, you want to be moving this lock date forward with each VAT return. Now, reason this is so important is because once you have, whether you're a sole trader or a limited company or whatever structural form you take, once you have your year end is passed and you have formally presented those accounts to HMRC or Companies House, like you've submitted those accounts, you cannot go and alter the figures in your bookkeeping, because then your accounts will not agree to your bookkeeping records. So as soon as your accounts have been submitted, you need to have this lock in place. So where I see that lock not in place, it ends up causing a big mess. And so you want to be looking out for that. And then my fifth and final sort of way that I want to share with you today to check that does your Xero possibly have any hidden mistakes is to come to the business menu and go to, you could look in both invoices and bills to pay, but I'm going to demonstrate the concept here to you using bills to pay. And what you want to do is you want to come to this awaiting payment tab. So you're looking at any bills that have not been marked as paid. And you are looking for two things here. You are looking for any bills that are older than a few months, and you were saying, well, actually, I know I paid that bill. Okay, so like the Swanston Security on the 6th of Jan, you know you paid it. So to you, that is therefore a sign that something has gone wrong. You maybe reconciled that transaction without the paperwork. And Xero, and now you have the paperwork sitting here, which is going to result in an issue in your Xero. So any bills that are old, you need to figure out what has gone wrong, and you need to clear that off. Then you also are looking for, now I thought I'd say one, yes, yeah, this example here. You're looking for any bills where you know that you do not have an account with that company, or you wouldn't have like a credit facility. So take, for example, the supermarket like Tesco or Sainsbury's. If you spend £15 there, there's no ways that they let you walk out of the supermarket with those products. I think in this case it was pens and paper, and only pay them at a later date. So it doesn't make sense that that is sitting here as something that is waiting to be paid. Maybe it was money that needs to be reimbursed to you, but most likely you've gone and the £15 went through the bank. You've reconciled that £15 without paperwork, and then you've got this bill added to Xero with the paperwork. And so you're ending up with this this error, this mistake that needs to be corrected, that's going to cause incorrect information in your financial records. So do make sure that you are checking your bills to pay, as well as a similar check on the invoices side for your customers. So on invoices, you would be looking for where you know the customer's paid you, but it's still showing that they need to pay. And you need to clean these up because it will cause so many issues. But I don't want to make this video too long for now. I really just wanted to give you a taster for where to look to see if your Xero could have possible issues. Thank you for listening. If you want to hear more videos like this, please do hit that subscribe button. Cheers.